From the New York Times, I'm Rachel Abrams, and this is The Daily. An explosive whistleblower report claims that the Justice Department is asking government lawyers to lie to the courts, and that has forced career officials to choose between upholding the Constitution or pledging loyalty to the president. Today, I speak to that whistleblower. It's Wednesday, July 23rd. Erez Rouvaini, welcome to The Daily.
Nice to meet you.
I spoke to Erez Rouvaini, the whistleblower, on Monday. I'm very curious how you feel being with us today.
Well, I didn't have this on my life bingo card, but I'm happy to be here and happy to tell my story and happy that you all want to hear it.
In 2010, Rouvaini joined the Justice Department's Office of Immigration Litigation, where he worked until he was fired in April of this year. And then in June, he filed a whistleblower complaint that alleges he was, quote, thwarted, threatened, fired, and publicly disparaged for both doing his job and telling the truth to the court because his clients engaged in unlawful activity, abused their authority, created substantial and specific threat to health and safety, and because the pattern of this conduct continues to this day.
Look, I've been a DOJ attorney for 15 years, and the things that I experienced in that 3-week window from March 14th to April 5th when I was suspended are unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it.
His whistleblower complaint focuses on directives he got from senior political appointees at the Justice Department, including from Emil Bovee, who, before joining the DOJ, was President Trump's personal lawyer.
So I've come forward because the Trump administration has put civil servants in this impossible position of fealty to the president and the agenda or fealty to uphold the Constitution and to uphold the rule of law. And time again during those 3 weeks, I was put to the question, which side am I going to be on? And ultimately, I didn't sign up to lie to a court. And that's the position I was put in, and that's the position others are being put in. And that's why I've come forward.
It also sounds like, if I'm kind of hearing you correctly and reading between the lines a little bit, that like you have an image of what the DOJ is supposed to be. And maybe to start, can you just talk about why and how you end up at the Justice Department to begin with?
Sure. I was at a law firm in San Francisco for a couple of years after clerking for 2 federal judges. And that was never the end game. I went there just because the money paid well. I wanted to live in San Francisco for a brief period of time, but I always wanted to get into public service. And the key marquee place to do that, everyone understood at the time, and I still, until recently, felt this way, was the Department of Justice. Because right away, you are leading big cases, you're standing up in court, you're saying, Erez Rouvaini on behalf of the United States. You're not necessarily saying, Erez Rouvaini on behalf of some large faceless corporation. You're here really representing the people of the United States. And the thing that I've always thought about when trying to explain this is there's this Supreme Court case from 1935 in which the Supreme Court tells you what it is to be a government lawyer. And the role of the government attorney, the Supreme Court writes, is not simply to win. It's to make sure justice is done. And that's the thrill of standing up in court and saying your name on behalf of the United States.
You sound, I just want to point out, idealistic. It sounds like that's why you went to the DOJ.
I think that'd be fair to say.
When you first joined the Justice Department,
you're saying Erez Rouvaini on behalf of the United States. You're not necessarily saying Erez Rouvaini on behalf of some large faceless corporation. You're here really representing the people of the United States. And the thing that I've always thought about when trying to explain this is there's this Supreme Court case from 1935 in which the Supreme Court tells you what it is to be a government lawyer. And the role of the government attorney, the Supreme Court writes, is not simply to win. It's to make sure justice is done. And that's the thrill of standing up in court and saying your name on behalf of the United States.
You sound, I just want to point out, idealistic. It sounds like that's why you went to the DOJ.
I think that'd be fair to say.
When you first joined the Justice Department, did it feel like what you thought being a DOJ attorney would feel like? Like, did it feel like the job was living up to the idealistic vision that you had or your ethical expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not true specific or uniquely to the Obama administration. It's true even of the first Trump administration, the Biden administration.
Mm.
When you got a court order, you followed it.
So let's fast forward to the first Trump administration. Can you tell us about some of the immigration cases you worked on during the first administration?
Sure. I think the most high profile one would have been the first one, the travel ban that sort of issued January 27th, 2017. That occupied the first few months, frankly, of the Trump administration in the immigration space. And I can recall working 100-hour weeks defending it in January and February of that year.
This was the travel ban that was colloquially known as the Muslim ban.
That's right.
How did it feel to defend that? Because obviously that was an extremely controversial case. Did you have any concerns representing the government on that issue?
So at that time, no. At that time, I did not have concerns because if we got a court order, as I did, which said you may not apply the travel ban in the state of Virginia, we complied with it. And if we didn't like it, we appealed.
You were comfortable doing whatever was within the limits of your abilities and the limits of the law.
I mean, that's part of being a government lawyer. You may not like everything you defend, but you're still there working with the client to do something within the confines of the law. And the client here would have been the Department of Homeland Security and State.
Just to put a really fine point on it, we know from some of our colleagues reporting that in the first term, the administration was frustrated with attorneys who they saw as standing in their way, particularly on issues of immigration. It does not sound like that you were that type of lawyer. You are not somebody who is pushing back against the Trump administration because you may have political or personal opposition to the policies. You were doing your job, you worked within the confines of what was legal, and that is what matters.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Trump administration promoted me and gave me 3 awards, if I recall correctly, during the first Trump administration for work I've done defending the very policies we're just talking about now, including the travel ban. So I'm there to do my job as a government attorney. I may not personally agree or disagree with everything I'm defending, regardless of who's the president, but the job is to defend vigorously the administration's goals within the confines of the law.
Coming up to the 2024 election, the Trump campaign made it very clear that a second Trump administration was going to be much more aggressive about immigration. And I wonder how you interpreted that. Like, what did you think and what were you expecting?
Having led litigation during the first Trump administration and seeing sort of how that unfolded, I think and this may be my personal thought, I don't want to put this view in anyone else's head, but we thought it'd be less chaotic. Like, they've done this already. They sort of maybe have a better handle on how to put out policy that survives the courts. We thought they would be more orderly compared to the first Trump administration.
So when President Trump's second term actually begins, you do start to grow more concerned about how the administration is enacting on this immigration agenda. So take me to the first moment when you started to feel that concern. What exactly happened and why did it bother you?
Yeah, this, I think, is March 14th of this year. And this is the same day where I am informed that I will soon be promoted to the acting deputy director for the Office of Immigration Litigation, which means I would essentially be the person overseeing all the district court litigation. Basically, the buck stops with me on quality control for anything going through the district courts. So that same day that I'm told that I am going to serve in this role, I am summoned with very little context to a meeting in the Deputy Attorney General's conference room, along with Drew Ensign, the political in charge of immigration litigation, and my supervisor, who at the time was the acting director. So at this meeting, we are told by Emil Bovey, who was running the meeting, the president was going to sign a proclamation invoking a rarely used 1798 wartime law, the Alien Enemies Act, and that planes containing individuals subject to this proclamation, Venezuelan nationals alleged to be members of the Tren de Aragua gang, were going to take off that weekend. This was a surprise. I mean, we had heard Stephen Miller and folks he was associated with in 2024 talk about the Alien Enemies Act, and so we were vaguely aware that this might be something at some point they would implement. But the key thing here, this is the important part of why this is so unusual, is this is a wartime law. It's only been invoked 3 times in the nation's history. It's never been invoked when there isn't a state of war. And in the normal course, even in the first Trump administration, the way one implements a somewhat aggressive reading of the law is you sit down with the lawyers, you come up with the best way to roll this out in the courts, you don't make the rollout operationally chaotic. None of that happened here. And so we have no context at this meeting for what we're about to hear, what the plan is, like how it's going to be implemented, and no one asks our opinion either. Nobody seems to care our thoughts on how to defend this or if it's defensible.
What happens after that? Tell us what they instruct you to do.
So Bovey, who again is leading the meeting, tells everyone in attendance that this invocation of the Alien Enemies Act to remove certain Venezuelan nationals is of the highest importance to the White House. And after a pause, emphasizing to everyone again in the room, those planes have to take off, quote, no matter what. And then there's another pause there. And then this is the thing that sets the tone for the next 3 weeks. Bovey says, and if some court were to issue some order that prevents that from happening, we would have to consider telling that court, quote, fuck you.
What were you thinking in that moment when he said that?
I felt like a grenade had gone off. Like, is he serious?
Mm.
It wasn't clear to me if it was just acting or bravado, chest thumping. Like, it was crazy. And after a very long pause, my immediate supervisor says, well, if we get an order, we would advise our clients to follow the order. And after that, we were ushered out of the conference room very quickly. The meeting ended shortly after that.
Just to lay out super clearly why this took you aback so much is that lawyers do not regularly say F you to the courts, right? Like abiding by a court order is the biggest, brightest red line.
Yeah, we get court orders that are bad for the goals of whoever is in the White House all the time. But the normal thing you do is you follow the order unless and until you get it reversed on appeal or stayed by a higher court. You don't just preemptively announce, yeah, we're just not going to follow that one. That was highly unusual. I'd never heard anything like it in my 15 years.
Did you think walking out of that meeting, that was probably just bluster, we're not actually going to be asked to do that?
Once my supervisor spoke up to say, well, no, we would advise our clients to follow court orders, yeah, I felt a little bit better about it. I felt that, okay, this is not something we need to worry about.
What happened after that?
So the attorneys from the ACLU file a lawsuit that I become aware of at 7:30 the next day. So by that morning, Judge Boasberg had issued a TRO.
The judge in this case.
Yes, which is a temporary restraining order. And so, as was telegraphed at the meeting the day before, we know that we're going to be spending our weekend defending this Alien Enemies Act operation, and we're going to be in court on Saturday. And there was a hearing set for 4 p.m. later that day. That hearing got moved to 5, and then we appeared at that hearing. And by we, I mean Drew Ensign. Drew Ensign handled the argument for the government. And now, just to sidebar here for a second, Ensign was at the same meeting I was at. And he heard the same things that I heard from Mr. Bovey, including that planes are taking off over the weekend and that they need to take off no matter what. And this is the highest priority to the White House. So Boasberg asks him, are there any planes taking off? And he says, I don't know. I believe that to not be a plausible answer from someone in Mr. Ensign's position, since he was at the same meeting as me.
You think he lied?
I believe he lied. I don't see how he could have come away from that meeting with the impression that no planes were taking off over the next 24 to 48 hours. And that's sort of the first operationalization, if you will, of the FU. So here we have the political head of the immigration section telling the court, I don't know.
What was your reaction when you heard your colleague, as you put it, lying to a judge?
Oh, shit. How can he say that? That's just not true.
Wow. So at this point, you've seen your colleagues do behavior that you find highly objectionable, it sounds like. At what point do you actually get involved?
Well, I'm talking to my immediate